Just a hint of tongue there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. I was thinking when you were talking about the title problem it flashed back to me the late English comedian Alan Coren wanted to write some memoirs, and he was told by his publishers, they don't sell, don't bother. Very discouraging wherever he went. And finally he said, well, what does sell? And they said, books about golf, books about cats, and books about the Nazis. So he wrote a book called Golfing for Cats, which had on its cover a huge cat waving a golf club with a huge swastika tattooed on its tummy, and it was a bestseller. So take courage. I was asked to be brief, but I didn't realize that I'd have such an enormous captive audience. So just relax. Everyone, I hope, has a drink and something to read, perhaps. In fact, I see you've all got Pitch 22. Make yourselves comfortable. I have no intention of being terse. I was also asked to talk a bit about what it's like writing about life writing. And one of the things is you have to bid adieu to economy. Normally, I'm trying to condense, trying to lay out an argument, make a case, see how much you can pack into a few thousand. With the fount of memory unsealed, however, you throw caution to the winds. You keep remembering more and more things. You try to get them down while you can. And you look for mnemonic devices. And of course, one of the best of these, and I have a lot of them in the book, is the limerick. I know that a lot of you think the limerick is just a delivery system for filth, don't you? Yeah, filth, that's what they want. Filth and plenty of it. The humble limerick, can be used as a delivery system for filth. There's the young engine driver named Hunt, who was given an engine to shunt, saw a runaway truck, by yelling out duck, saved the life of the fellow in front. That's not what you wanted, is it? That's not at all, no. What you wanted was something filthy and preferably anti-clerical, I would guess. Strange how contemporary that stuff is. Let's see. It's a family values gathering. I'll keep it soft. They say of the Bishop of Birmingham that he screws little boys while confirming them. They kneel on the cassock. He lifts up his hassock and pumps his episcopal sperm in him. Rough, you'll agree, but hardly needs any bad words. But the real point about the limerick is not that. I could go on in that vein, but I won't, unless there's a huge demand for it. It's how much you can condense. For example, the great Robert Conquest, who is one of the many wonderful figures whose friendship I honor in the book. He's now 94, great historian of the Russian Revolution and great poet and great lyricist. And he condensed the history of the Russian Revolution into a limerick, which goes like this. The Russian Revolution had a big influence on my life at one point too, so that's my excuse. There once was a fellow named Lenin who did 2 or 3 million men in. That's a lot to have done in, but where he did 1 in, that old bastard Stalin did 10 in. You see, it doesn't leave much out. It's 5 lines. You'll remember the speech that Jacques gives in the second act of As You Like It, the 7 ages of man. You remember all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. Each man in his time plays many parts, the form being 7 ages. Remember that? This is Robert Conquest condensing those 24 lines into the following. 7 ages. First puking and mewling, then very pissed off with your schooling, then fucks and then fights, then judging chaps' rights, then sitting in slippers, then drooling. Shakespeare in one go. You can also do John Calvin's Doctrine of Predestination in a limerick. There once was a man who said, damn, it's been born in upon me I am, the creature that moves in predestinate grooves. I'm not even a bus, I'm a tram. There you have it. And, well, and then there's the wasteland. Quite easy to do if you're Wendy Cope, who I list in my memoir as one of my favorite poets, certainly my favorite woman poet. And she has the wasteland like this. In April, one seldom feels cheerful. Hot sun and cold dusk make me fearful. Clairvoyants depress me, commuters distress me, met Stetson and gave him an earful. Yeah, the wasteland, ladies and gentlemen. So, these I try and include as mnemonic devices, but the task of telling about one's life doesn't get any easier. In fact, it gets harder once you've finished, because you keep on remembering more things, or things you wish you'd said. Since we're talking in French, it's what Diderot calls the esprit d'escalier, the line you think of on the staircase on the way down that you wish you'd uttered at the time it comes to you too late, sometimes called arrière-pensée. I was asked yesterday why I decided to slightly out myself and describe a gay episode in my Brideshead regurgitated days at Oxford University, where two of my conquests included delightful young men who later became members of Mrs. Thatcher's cabinet. And I was asked why I'd chosen to put that in. And I said, well, I've been in favor of screwing the Tories all my life. Why didn't I put that in the book? I torture myself about it. Jonathan Karp, my brilliant editor and publisher, and one of the founders of this feast, said to me at one point, there's quite a lot of sex, but not very much love in the book. And I was thinking in blurbs by then, and I thought immediately, lots of sex but no love, Jonathan Karp, 12. Perfect blurb. It was almost written for me. They say it's a good sign if you keep on thinking about it, and that it's boring if you've put in everything. The other thing that I found is that there's nothing quite like reading about your own death. Someone referred to me as the late Christopher Hitchens in the catalogue of the National Portrait Gallery in London recently. And I thought, I'm not late, mate. But then I thought, but there's a sentence that will one day be absolutely, literally true. And as Leopold Bloom says in Ulysses, it's a good thing to read your death notice. It gives you a new outlook on life, concentrates the mind very wonderfully. I recommend it. Constant reflection on demise is a good thing. Now, I'm trespassing on the time of my fellow guests here. I'll try and end with a thought, because I'd like you all to read the book, and I'd like you to give it to your friends and tell them not to take it out of the library, but to buy their own copy, because there's much more value added if you do that. And it also hit me yesterday, and I wish I'd thought of this before, that Hitch 22 is also a telephone number. It's got exactly the right number of digits, as it were. And if you just put 1-900 in front of it, will you promise? Write this down. Just dial 1-900 Hitch 22, and we can stay in constant touch. And you can send my children to college, and I look forward to it. And it's been very nice of you to be my prisoner. Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Now, unfortunately, Mr. Hitchens has to fly to London, which I so hope someday someone says that about me, like, he wants to stay, he's got to fly to London, because you're a spy, for God's sakes. You are literally James Bond. He is going to leave now to fly to London. How awesome is that? Now let's all watch him do it. Here he goes. Christopher Hitchens, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. If you haven't had a chance to read the book, the chapter where he goes over some of the word games that he and his circle of equally brilliant friends play is so filthy and so kind of reassuring to a comedian like me that, oh yeah, even really smart people try to find ways to slip filthy words into classic sentences. I won't go into it, but it's actually kind of life-affirming. And it's literally pages, they're just sheets of filth, and when you're done reading them, you'll go, oh, hey, life's really great. All right, I like it. Now, our next writer, I got sent your book last week, and I've been moving, and I haven't had a chance to read all of it, but I started reading it on the plane yesterday, and I read it the entire flight. I could not stop reading it. I've read the first, I think, 10 chapters at this point, and that's really saying a lot, because the in-flight movie was The Tooth Fairy starring The Rock, and I did not watch it. Instead, I read her book instead of watching Tooth Fairy a 5th time. So that really The book is called Ape House. I'm going to let you describe it, but we were talking about it backstage. The beginning is terrific. Maybe it stinks later on. I don't know, but the beginning is awesome. It is really amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, also the author of Water for Elephants, Sara Gruen. Ladies and gentlemen.